Identifying our transformations, A, H, and K. So your A value, A is 1/2. That's the number in front of the square root. That would be your A value. What is that 1/2 going to make our graph do? Is it going to make it stretch or compress? Compress. Stephen, did you pick up everything over there? The yellow, the blue, and the white? Yeah, you got to pick up everything. Yellow, blue, and white. So because of that 1/2, it's going to make it compress. H is always under the hood and you flip the sign. So under the hood, there's a +3. We're going to flip that to the opposite, which is a -3. What is that going to make our graph do? Go left 3. K is in the back, but it's not under the hood, so that's a 5. That's going to make the graph go up 5. All right, who had that in their bell work? So we will have a skills check soon. I'm going to get it together here in a minute. Start figuring out when this test and skills check and stuff will be. Let's go to our notes. We're going to pick up at example 4. We're doing examples 4, 5, 6, and 7 today. And then you can use the rest of the period to work on homework. Homework is due next Tuesday. So every single question is going to start by asking you to graph the parent. So we're on page 5, example 4. The parent table never changes. This is your parent table. So go ahead and graph this table. This is the same as what I have down here. So graph those 4 points. That's your parent. 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. So it's going to look just like that. So that's the parent for our square root graph. Whenever you apply your transformations, the method that we use will never change. So the first thing we're going to do is identify what would be our changes. What changes are going to happen when we compare this graph? I'm going to zoom in. When I compare this equation to the parent, how is it going to be different? So what is A? What's the number in front of the square root? 2. Is that going to make it stretch or compress? Stretch. What's H? -3. That's under the hood and you flip the sign. So it says a +3, but you're going to flip it to a minus. That's moving the graph left 3. And then there's nothing in the back of this graph. Nothing is in the back. So our K value is 0. So this graph does not go up or down. All right, so now you're going to go down to this table. This is the next step. With this table, what you're going to do is add the H to X. We said H was -3. So pick up your calculator if you need to and add -3 to these 4 numbers. So take -3 plus 0, -3 plus 1, -3 plus 4, and -3 plus 9. So go ahead and do that with a calculator. Get your new 4 X values. All right, who had those four numbers for x? -3, -2, +1, and +6. All right, your y values, you're multiplying those numbers by a, which is 2, and then you're adding k. So go ahead and do that all the way down. So you got 0 times 2 plus 0, 1 times 2 plus 0, 2 times 2 plus 0, 3 times 2 plus 0. And of course, you know you don't have to add the 0, right? We're really just multiplying them by 2 because adding 0 does not change it. All right, and then when you have that, go ahead and graph those 4 points. So if I put a point at -3, 0, -2, up 2, 1, up 4, 6, up 6. If you compare that blue graph to the red graph, notice that it moved to the left and it stretched up. And that's it. That is all that's to it, y'all. Just like we did moving forward. Same stuff. So these x values are your domain. And every graph that we do in this class is going to start off with x is greater than or equal to. That's not going to change. And it's going to be greater than or equal to whatever we started with, which is h, so -3. Your y values start at 0. And are my numbers getting bigger or smaller? Bigger. So that would be y is greater than or equal to 0. Any questions about how we did that? What y'all think? Easy, hard? We catching on? All right, let's do it again. Go ahead, graph your parent. Same table. Example 5. Graph your parent. So that would be the 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. That's the mama. So I'm going to put the table up here too. So the a value is always the number in front of the square root. So let me zoom in real close here. So I'm looking at this one. That a value is that -1 right here. So put a -1 for a. Because a is negative, it's going to make it reflect or flip. So now the graph is going to be an upside down eyebrow. The h value is underneath the square root with the x, but see how x is by itself? There isn't anything else with that. So that means that h is 0. So this one does not go left or right. And then your k value is in the back. That's -6. So that's going to make it go down 6. So now you're ready to apply your transformations. So you're adding 0, which doesn't change anything. So we don't need to pick up a calculator to add 0. That means our x values are going to stay the same, 0, 1, 4, and 9. But for your y values, we're multiplying them by -1, and then we are subtracting 6. So go ahead, pick up your calculators if you need to. Multiply those 4 numbers by -1, and then subtract 6. So let's see, you should get -6, -7, -8, and -9. So I'm gonna go ahead and graph those points over here. So it's upside down, and it moved down 6, and that would be your graph. So looking at these numbers, my domain, I started with 0 and the numbers got bigger. So x is greater than or equal to 0. But your range is a little different, and this is the first time we had a range do this. Our numbers for our range, they're not getting bigger, they're getting smaller. So your range is y, and then it would be a less than and equal to -6. I'm going to zoom in. Can you write in your notes that if your A is negative, if it reflects, then it's going to change to a less than. Only the range. Whenever your graph reflects. So if your A value is negative, then you change the y, the range to a less than and not a greater than. All right, flip it over to the next page. Couple more, we're almost done. Go ahead, graph that parent, 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. Let's go. Graphing the parent should get easier and easier. It's the same 4 points, 0, 0, 1, 1, 4 up 2, 9 up 3. That's your parent. That's what we compare everything to. All right, so now looking at this graph, we got to identify A, H, and K. So what is my A value? A is what? 0.5. H is under the hood and you flip the sign, so that would be a +4. K is -2. So because A is 0.5, that's going to make this graph compress. H is +4, so it's going to move it to the right 4. K is -2, so it goes down 2. So you can pick up your calculator. You're going to add the 4 all the way down. For your y values, you're multiplying it by 1/2 and subtracting 2 all the way down. So pick up your calculators and get your 4 new ordered pairs. right, so we would get a 4, a 5, a 8, and a 13. And then we would get a -2, -1.5, -1, -0.5. So do your best, the best you can to graph that. I know we got some decimals. Decimals are a little trickier. But even if you only graph these 2 points, that's enough. If you know, the decimals are tricky, you can get away with just graphing those 2 and still have a good enough graph. You only need 2 points to graph it. So 4, -2, oops. And 8, -1, that's enough to graph it. What do you think we're going to put for our domain? X is what? Anybody? Greater than or equal to what? What number? 4. Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. And our Y value is going to be the same. It's going to be greater than or equal to, and this one is -2. All right, we only have one more left. Go ahead and graph the parent for number 7. And then you'll have the rest of the period to work on homework. So I'm going to graph that parent 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. Look at this one here. Identify A, H, and K. So what would you put for A, H, and K? A is -2. So because it's negative, it's going to flip down. And because it's a 2, it's also going to stretch. So the negative makes it reflect, the 2 makes it stretch. So it does 2 different things. H, what's H? -1. That's going to make it go left 1. K is -3, and that's going to move that down 3. All right, let's go ahead and do our transformations to our chart. Remember, you're always adding H to K, H to X, sorry, not H to K. You're adding H to X, multiply Y by A, and add K. So take a minute, pick up your calculators, and get your ordered pairs. Go ahead and compare to my points. So I had -1, -3. And then my next point was 0, -5. And then 3, -7, and 8, -9. Go ahead and graph that. That's what it should look like. If you compare the red to the blue, it flipped over, it stretched, moved left 1 and down 3. So my domain is x is greater than or equal to what? What's my first number in my table for x? -1. This one reflects. So it'll be y is less than and equal to. Because it's a -a, we have to flip that to a less than, and that would be -3. All right, can everybody take out your homework? There's a couple of things I want to tell you about it. First thing, for the people who were absent yesterday, Chase and Steven, this homework is due Tuesday, January 14th. So you can write that on that paper. All homework gets turned into this blue tray. So let's talk about the homework real quick. First of all, the tables at the bottom, do you notice that we didn't give you the numbers? So you might want to fill in the numbers for your graphs. So for all of your tables in your homework, what I would do, because I don't know if you get this on the test either, is I would just fill it in like this. So I would add in h plus x, and I would fill that in, and then I would also put these numbers in the table. So go ahead and write that on your tables for every graph. Now you cannot do, wait, let me pause. You cannot do the last two. So the one on the back, the last two, those are cube roots. Those are different. So right now you can only do the first graph on the back. You can do the entire front and all of the back graph. And then for part B on your homework, is asking you for your domain and range for the parent. This is homework I'm talking about, not the notes. The domain and range for your parent, when you look at these tables, notice that they both start at 0 and both sides are getting bigger. So for part B in your homework, when it asks you for your domain and range of the parent, you would say x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is greater than or equal to 0. This is the domain. This is the range. All right, use this time to finish working on your homework. If you have questions, feel free to